The MV Joyita, a 70-ton merchant vessel, set sail from Apia, Samoa, bound for the Tokelau Islands, with a crew of 25 on board. As it vanished into the vast expanse of the Pacific, a sense of unease settled over the families of the crew, who waited anxiously for news of their loved ones. The ship was expected to make the 270-mile journey in just over 48 hours, but as the hours ticked by, a growing feeling of dread began to spread. The last transmission from the MV Joyita was a routine radio check-in, and then, silence. As the hours ticked by, the families of the crew grew more and more anxious, their worries fueled by the complete lack of communication from the MV Joyita. The ship was equipped with state-of-the-art radio equipment, and it was unthinkable that they would not have made contact by now. A sense of foreboding settled over the small community, as they waited for news of the ship's fate. The sea was calm, with gentle winds and clear skies, but the silence from the MV Joyita was deafening. The MV Joyita was now well overdue, and the families of the crew were beside themselves with worry. The authorities had launched an investigation, but so far, no signs of the ship had been found. The sea was still calm, but the sense of unease was growing, as the reality of the situation began to sink in. The MV Joyita was a sturdy ship, with an experienced crew, but something was terribly wrong. The silence from the ship was now a deafening roar. The search for the MV Joyita was now in full swing, with planes and ships scouring the Pacific for any sign of the missing vessel. The families of the crew were on edge, waiting for news of their loved ones, as the authorities worked tirelessly to find the ship. The sea was still calm, but the sense of unease was growing, as the hours ticked by with no sign of the MV Joyita. The silence from the ship was now a haunting presence, that hung over the small community like a dark cloud. The search for the MV Joyita had been going on for days, and the authorities were no closer to finding the missing ship. The families of the crew were on edge, waiting for news of their loved ones, as the sense of unease grew. The sea was still calm, but the silence from the MV Joyita was now a haunting presence, that hung over the small community like a dark cloud. The authorities were beginning to fear the worst, as the hours ticked by with no sign of the ship. The MV Joyita was found, but the discovery was not what anyone had expected. The ship was intact, with no signs of damage or struggle, but there was no one on board. The crew's personal belongings were still on the ship, but there was no sign of the 25 men who had set sail on the fateful journey. The mystery of the MV Joyita's disappearance would haunt the small community for years to come, as the question of what happened to the crew remained unanswered. The silence from the ship was now a haunting presence, that would forever be etched in the minds of those who waited for news of their loved ones.